So here is the guy who made a video about Arknights Endfield, some main issues, and this video is getting quite a decent amount of views, also a lot of different reactions. It's a little bit of a controversial one, but this is going to be interesting to listen, and I want to provide my personal point of view about what's going on here, why
the power
is it
of
kind of
language
important,
comes from rules
and just
and
add
restraints,
some
not from arbitrary
perspective
imagination.
about this game.
Only by imposing constraints upon yourself can you make progress in the incantation arts.
3 months ago, I dropped a nuclear bomb on the Arknights Endfield community titled The Death Knell of Gacha Games, in which I decried their homogenization in the name of appealing to the masses, complete with deranged yelling at said masses.
Don't f***ing lie to me!
While everyone understands the need for gacha games to make money, the vast majority of people agree the combat is far too disconnected from the base, that Genshin-like homogeneity would be a disaster, and that hypergriff need to be true to their roots.
Well, here is the moment. We're talking specifically about identity of the game, and I have a huge story. I was playing for like over 15 years in different genres, in different games. I had experience in some extremely hardcore games, in some strategy games. I was playing as well gacha games, MMORPGs, action RPGs, and so on, in completely all different possible genres. So I believe that this is an important moment to actually save this identity for all companies who are going to provide the game. It doesn't matter which field is going to be. The game should provide some unique perspectives, some unique mechanics, and so on. This is important.
However, the universal divide was the call to remove the dodge. Some agreed with removing it, some said just make it more strategic, some said remove the iframes, some said tie it to a factory item, and this guy decided I'm gay.
I'm not going to comment to the last one thing which has been mentioned, but overall, when we're talking about some dodging mechanics, they are kind of important in every game which we have, and I believe in each game where you have a dodging system, a dodging mechanic, it should be kind of bring some strategical aspect to the game. And basically, when you're using this mechanic, it should be done on purpose with certain calculations and understanding why, where, in which situation you're going to use it. And I mean, even as I'm playing different gacha games, there are some of them which are kind of making sense because you're getting some result from your dodges. You can't really spam it and so on. So, I mean, it could be implemented in a good way.
But after being posted to Bilibili, it then spread further into other forums and became so divisive that some of those forums started arguing about the dodge button and whether the game should lean more into strategy or action, to the point where one content creator even made a response video because those arguments were getting out of hand. So, having briefly divided the community into warring factions, I will now attempt to do it again.
Okay, this sounds interesting.
I mean, I will now explain why the dodge button is a mistake beyond simply pointing a finger at those who want to keep it. In order to do that, we first need to look at how a few of the criticisms of combat in the technical test were addressed in the beta. Not all of them, just the relevant ones. This will be brief. The most common complaint was the slow pace and long downtime, which was addressed by what is essentially a total rework of the combat loop. Two of the most noticeable changes are the bullet time targeting being removed in favor of a lock-on system, and healing items being used automatically with per-operator cooldowns instead of having to bring up a sub-menu to choose who to heal. Previously, it was only limited by one operator at a time getting the heal with one cooldown for the squad, but now that it's automatic per operator, there's a limited number of charges on it while in battle.
Well, it's kinda tough, not gonna lie, and it's providing as well a unique aspect of the game because you need to think strategically about who you're going to heal, which enemies you should focus on, and so on, and you have, let's say, some time frame to actually decide for yourself. This a little bit of a controversial moment, because when you have such a pause when you're trying to cast a skill or something like that, it kind of removes some real action from the game, and it again depends on the, let's say, main focus of the game, on the main features of the game. If the game built specifically like a strategical one, it's one thing. When it's supposed to be like an action RPG or something like that, it's the other thing. Because in action RPG, you should have some fast-paced combats. You should react quickly. It could be difficult, it could be easy, it depends, but from what I've seen like here right now from the alpha test, it was more like a strategical stuff specific.
Perhaps the most important change, though, is the way skills work. That is, instead of each skill having an individual cooldown with the set number of uses required to charge your ultimate, skills now have no cooldowns at all and instead use a shared bar of SP, and you have to decide which character gets to use the SP you have. There is also the addition of combo skills, and being able to trigger each operator's combo skill is the key to building good teams and the easiest way to get a general idea of how someone is meant to be used. Plus, there
Okay, this is a unique strategical aspect again, because you need to decide when you're going to attack, who are you going to use, and so on, how to control your stamina, let's say, your points, and when at exactly which moment you're going to finish or attack or something like that, or dodge and so on.
There's the issue of guaranteed attacks, which was addressed with the dodge button. Combine all these changes and the pacing of combat feels much faster. Right, now, where can we see how players felt about the... Oh. Players were clearly happy with some changes, considering all the praise and comparing it to the tech test, but nonetheless they were still not satisfied with the dodge, and they were not satisfied with the rate of SP generation. But unfortunately, much as they might insist otherwise, these complaints about dodges and SP are misguided, because dodging is not the root cause of the issue. It is virtually impossible to discuss dodging in video games without someone at some point bringing up Dark Souls, and endless comparisons to Souls-likes can get rather tiring, but in our case we have good reason to. Lowlight, the creator of Arknights himself, is known to be a huge fan of Elden Ring, and he has already confirmed the existence of references to it in Endfield. So let's examine the role of dodging in Endfield by first...
Okay, I should stop this, and a little bit of a misconception. When a developer of the game is saying that he is a fan of certain genre and there are going to be some sort of references to Souls-like games, Elden Ring or whatever it's going to be, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to talk specifically about the survival aspect of the game. Why is it so? Because first of all, when we're talking about Souls-like games, when we're talking about the Elden Ring, these games are survival simulators. We should keep in mind that these games, they build specifically about combats, how you're going to manage your stamina, exactly timing when you're going to dodge, so it's kinda a really long-term game. It's not an easy one, because again, you need to dodge, you need to get this specific frame, you need to land your attack, and bosses, they're kinda crazy, like they're hitting you non-stop. You need to build your strategy, you need to be patient, you need to wait for specific frames, and this is not a really like a usual action game, because it is at some point for sure, but it's more related to your strategy. It's like a chess match, most likely. That's how we can compare it. And if we're talking about some usual action RPGs or about some gacha games, majority of them, they're not built in this specific way, like a strategical one. And it's really going to depend how developers are going to decide what to do, how they want to see their project at the very release. If they want to see it more in a Souls-like paced, let it be, that's fine, but that's up to them, that's their decision.
The existence of references to it in Endfield. So let's examine the role of dodging in Endfield by first seeing what we can learn from Elden Ring. From Software are known for their enemy and boss designs for a reason. Enemies hit hard and you are expected to die repeatedly. The game provides you with several ways to mitigate that damage. Armor and shields are abundant, vigor increases your HP, etc. However, the ultimate form of damage mitigation would of course be total invincibility, and oh look, how convenient. Dodge rolls provide an accessible and unlimited supply of short windows of invincibility known as iframes. However, there are two important things to remember here. Firstly, attacking and dodging both consume a set amount of stamina. You must spend the same resource both to deal and avoid damage. And secondly, in essence, you cannot cancel the animations for either of them, leaving you vulnerable for their duration. As a result, you need to restrain yourself from dodging or attacking impulsively because the game is designed from the ground up to punish you for doing so.
As I said, it's specifically a strategical type of gameplay. You're kind of thinking about each of your steps, you're learning patterns of the boss you're trying to survive. That's the main reason of this game.
Attacks and frame traps teach you to dodge sparingly and with intention, and one of the key challenges presented by the fast pacing of endgame bosses is pushing the limits of your stamina management. The result is a flow state where every action is a carefully considered commitment. If you were able to cancel attacking and dodging animations, that commitment would disappear and the game's skill expression would become a matter of optimizing those animation cancels.
It's a highly skill-related game. Again, as I said, it's a surviving simulator. So
might be okay in other games when the creators intend it, but a fundamental part of Elden Ring's identity is not just difficulty, but discipline. And without the risk and reward created by the commitment of your actions, that identity would be compromised. It is precisely because the game presents you with such challenges that you are rewarded with those moments of unbridled ecstasy in overcoming them.
Come on! Yes!
It's the whole idea of the concept of such types of games. It's like a separate genre, let's say.
Now let's compare what we've learned from Elden Ring with combat in Arknights Endfield. While the goal of an attack in Elden Ring is purely to deal damage, in Endfield some of the first things the game teaches you in the tutorials are that your basic attacks deal very little damage compared to skills, skill points regenerate very slowly, and the last hit in your basic attack sequence, the final strike, will restore SP.
Okay,
the game is telling us that SP purposefully regenerates slowly because it's your job as the player to obtain more of it. In other words, basic attacks are not meant purely for dealing damage, they are primarily a step in the process of dealing damage. You use basic attacks to get SP with the final strike, which you then use to cast a skill which deals considerably more damage, which then triggers a chain of combo skills. You get the picture. Several combo skills are also triggered by a final strike, which is why you don't get SP from each individual normal attack, because it would make those combo skills very inefficient compared to those that aren't. Now, if you only have 1 bar of SP and you use it on a random skill that doesn't enable any combos or elemental inflictions, you'll then be left without much to do besides going and getting more SP. Consider also the example of Aviwenna. Her combo skill and her ultimate will place thunderbolts in the ground, and then with her battle skill, she retrieves those thunderbolts, dealing electric damage to everything in their path. But if you just use the skill aimlessly, all she does is a little jump and spin, which totally wastes the SP.
This is an important moment. So, again, we are talking about the strategical aspect of the game, and by my understanding, that's fine. It should work the way that your actions, they supposed to give certain results. If you understand how the game works, if you understand the patterns of skills of your attacks, if you can calculate your timings and so on, you can show decent results. If you're not understanding how it's going to work, how it's working, well, you're not going to receive any results and you're going to fail at some point, and that's fine. It's, again, a certain unique aspect, a certain unique moment about this game.
Furthermore, consider the technical test's bullet time targeting, where every single skill cast forced you to make a decision because it was a 2-step process of selecting a skill and deciding a direction. You can see the pattern in what both versions of the game are asking of you. Endfield is trying to discourage carelessness while encouraging discipline and intent. And you can see that design goal throughout the game. The limit on the number of zipline towers you can have in a given region is meant to encourage you to be intentional with where you place them instead of just spamming them everywhere. Even the gacha system discourages you from just randomly pulling for no reason. Recall how Elden Ring punishes the...
I mean, the whole thing that you, if you can do just whatever you want without any thinking about the process behind it, what your actions should give to you at the end, if you're spamming, I don't know, skills without any strategical thinking, if you're building any structures without understanding what's the reason for it, if you don't think about the strategy of this game, it kind of makes no sense for you to play this game, because it's supposed to be in such specific way. And again, the game itself, it should to provide some unique moments, some unique aspect, and this is a really important one thing to understand, that each one of the games, they shouldn't just copy paste each other. They should be unique. There should be something different from other games, and in most of the cases some major aspects.
Player for pressing buttons impulsively. Using the same resource both to deal and avoid damage, and animations being uncancelable, work together to set a deliberate pace. But Enfield's design contradicts itself. It wants you to be disciplined and intentional while simultaneously allowing you to just dodge at will. Notice how the resources for dealing and avoiding damage are separated. In order to get the resource for dealing damage, SP, you need to get a final strike. Doing so often means you will need to take damage. There is a good reason one of the main purposes of the factory is to produce healing items, and also that the main stat on every single piece of gear is defense, which in Endfield means final damage reduction. Meanwhile, your resource for avoiding damage is stamina. Dodging will consume 1 bar of stamina, and the game starts you off with 2, but once you've collected all the Aetherium, that increases to 6, and at that point you don't even need to think of it as a resource anymore, because in practice you just never run out of stamina to dodge. Which consequently means players do not have any expectation of restraint with the dodge button, nor of being willing to take damage. And in addition to that, every single attack and skill animation will be cancelled by dodging. The sole exception is Gilberta's Gravity Well, which is the only battle skill in the game that is in effect over a fixed duration, as opposed to a single instance of damage or an instantly applied buff. All of this combined tells us that Enfield's dodge exists in direct contradiction to the discipline and intentionality the game is trying to encourage. It may well be possible to adjust it to complement their intended design goal, but if you are a beta tester who looked at the feedback section, you will have seen that in reality, the vast majority of players were asking for the opposite. More iframe.
Well, here I should say one thing about SP, dodging and precise calculations. Again, the main thing here is that people are supposed to strategize their actions during the combats, during the battle, and that's fine. It should be, if the game is supposed to be such type of a game. It doesn't really matter if it's a gacha game or whatever other type of the game. If the core element of this game is specifically focused on dodges, survivability and strategizing your actions, it's important to be such. And if we have such a fact that we're not running out of SP, I consider it as a bad thing. Yeah, you're kind of developing your character, understandable. You're getting more SP, you're getting more, I don't know, HP bar, stamina, whatsoever, you are hitting harder, you're getting more stats, you're able to survive longer, and so on. But it shouldn't be the case that it's going to remove completely the core element of the game. It's supposed to be such till the very end. I don't know, maybe battles should be harder, maybe you need to dodge more just to, again, have some kind of precise calculations and strategy, and you still need to manage your SP. But the main thing that its developers, they're kind of removing such a possibility. And here is an interesting question. When we're talking about feedback of beta testers, here an important moment again to keep in mind that majority of players who are providing feedback, this is always the case, that it's going to be in most of the cases negative. When people don't like some specific moments, they're going to provide their feedback saying that or whining that I don't like this or that. And in the vast majority cases, in whatever game, doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter which genre, doesn't matter which specific one game. There are always going to be people who are unhappy about this or that, and they're going to look like they're the most loud, they're producing the most amount of noise just because they're only one who are providing some kind of a feedback and saying about different misconceptions or whatever is going to be the case. Because those players who are actually enjoying the game, in most of the cases, they're not going to say anything. They're just going to enjoy the game, and that's pretty much
more
it.
SP, more rewarding, and so on and so forth. The astute observers among you might have figured out where this is going, but bear with me here, because remember, dodging is not the root cause of the issue. To take a very brief detour and give necessary context for an example I'm about to use, in November, Arknights tried an experimental co-op game mode. Unfortunately, it took place a couple of weeks after the release of Wishadel, who was given the most ridiculous kit Hypogryph have ever made. Fans of Wishadel were naturally going to be inclined to use their shiny new win button, and so most of my co-op games consisted of my teammates deploying her, killing everything in sight, leaving absolutely nothing for me to do but sit on my ass and wait for it to be over, because leaving early would put me on a matchmaking cooldown. To put it in other words, I had no agency. My teammates' use of Wishadel was preventing me from taking any action, and it was absolutely fucking miserable. So I decided to take matters into my own hands.
Insane.
Ark is an operator who deals a fixed amount of physical damage to an allied unit in return for a hefty buff, but Wishadel doesn't have enough defense to tank it. So I brought him to every game and immediately team killed every Wishadel I came across so that I could actually enjoy playing the co-op mode together with my teammate. So
That's sneaky, man.
numerous were my Ark team kills that I decided to have a bit of fun with it by writing a song.
I'm taking matters into my own hands. This is my villain arc. If none of you
I can't say that you're completely wrong about such actions. I mean, yeah, you want to enjoy the game, but
will
hey,
let me play the
that's
game, I'll keep
crazy.
deploying arc behind your dear beloved waifu Wishadel before I cast durian-flavored Stimpack resolutely up her ass.
Plenty of people were delighted with my mischievous musical merriment, including some Wishadel users
That was
themselves,
cool.
as
That was
opposed to
cool.
the Arknights subreddit, which banned me for 4 entire months.
Oh,
But while I will freely admit
shit.
that yes, I was being a little bit insensitive, there were some comments on both the video and the Reddit post which
Okay, at least you admit that. Yeah, I mean, it's again a controversial topic. You want to play this game, you want to play this mode, but you don't have a chance to actually do it due to a certain character or players who are not providing you such an ability. What should you do? I don't know. Complain? Wait for a feedback from developers? But I'm not gonna lie, killing your allies, it's not a cool thing. It's kinda sneaky.
elucidated a common point
not
of
a fan
view
of
among
it.
those who were offended by it. Nearly all of them said something along the lines of, what if I don't care about the event? What if I want to just get the rewards and be done with it? It didn't matter to them that this was a cooperative game mode, and no matter how clearly it was explained to them that their use of Wishadel was preventing me from using anyone,
Nobody is going to listen to this, man. So the whole thing that when people are playing the game, there are always going to be such people. Again, it doesn't matter which genre we're talking about. There are always going to be such people who are playing to just, I don't know, complete daily missions, whatever, without thinking about anything. They don't care about the real purpose of the mode. They're going just to get their rewards and turn it down. It is what it is. You should understand, they don't care. Nobody's care, as a matter of fact. Some people, they want to experience the game. They want to spend quite a lot of time in this game. And some people, let's say, making content from this game. Others, they're just enjoying it, spending some amount of time per day, maybe per week, whatever occasions may be. And some players, they're just tuning in for like several minutes, whatever, just to complete certain dailies and forget about it. Or when they have some pauses or something like that, and nobody is going to give a shit about what do you want, what do you feel. They have their own goals and they have their own reasons to play this game. It's the cruel reality, and nobody is going to think about others. Just it's what we have in a whole our freaking entire world. It's not applicable only to games.
it just fell on deaf ears. They didn't even enjoy the game, they just wanted the rewards that came after it, with zero consideration of how their actions might affect their teammates' experience. Now think about some of the complaints from the beta for a moment. Remember all those seemingly random requests for open world mechanics like wall climbing and grappling hooks and stuff? They must be aware that a major part of the game is relaying power and building your own.
Oh, that's a bullshit. I'm going to tell you, that's a bullshit. It's just a fucking copy-paste of already existing games. And if this game is focusing on zip lines and building some structures and again strategizing the way how you're going to move from one location to another, let it be. It should be such. It shouldn't implement the already existing mechanics from other games
Zip lines,
just because
right? The inspiration from Death Stranding should be pretty
it kind of looks cool or whatever is going to be the case.
obvious.
Yeah, about the
You
Death
get to
Stranding,
choose where the
actually,
zip lines
that's
go,
cool.
but you have to set them up yourself. You can't just
Yeah.
have them without building them. But all those requests for random open world shit exist because whether you realize it or not, you're asking for exactly that. You want what the zip lines provide without the responsibility of building them yourself. Importing mechanics like grappling hooks and wall running and flying or whatever.
It's stupid. I mean, again, the whole purpose of the game is to discover the world. It has a certain mechanics which supposed to work, which supposed to remain in this game. If you want to fast travels or whatever is going to be the case, whatever you want, if it's not supposed to be such a thing in this game, get the fuck out of here.
But simply wouldn't work. The game is fundamentally not designed like that. It would completely trivialize every single terrain obstacle, and you'd then be left wondering why the world feels so much smaller. Because that constraint is not an oversight or a shortcoming, it is deliberate. Looking back to those earlier complaints from the beta about SP and dodging, if you're performing final strikes, getting SP is very simple, or you can just use Arknight to make it easier. But the player is insisting on dodging even when the game is punishing them for doing so carelessly. And instead of making that connection and deciding not to dodge, they are just asking for more SP and easier dodges.
Again, we're talking here about the thing that there are always going to be players who are going to whine about different stuff, and they're going to be always the most loud part of the community, even with the fact that they're minority. That's the reality.
You may have noticed a pattern here. At first, the root of the problem appears to be that gacha players do not want their actions to matter.
Wrong. Here is the thing that we're talking not specifically about gacha players. As a matter of fact, we're talking about the whole player base in general. And I'm going to tell you this quite honestly. In gacha games, there are a lot of different of them. There are many of them. And there are a lot of players who are playing it and who are playing gacha games over decades. And the whole thing that there are quite a lot of players who are highly skilled and they want challenges. And even among my friends, let's say I have guys who are kind of pay-to-win players. And we know when we're talking about the pay-to-win aspect that it's supposed to provide your convenience. It's supposed to provide you, let's say, complete certain stages easier. But these people are usually the most competitive because they are investing their money, to save some time for some specific points of the game and to actually compete in a certain modes or whatever is going to be the case. And they are really focusing on this. They're highly competitive players. As a matter of fact, a lot of free-to-play players who are not spending a penny, the whole reason for not spending into the game is to actually add some challenges and to make it more competitive and more interesting to play with a certain mechanics that this game is going to provide. Also, when we're going to talk specifically about some other games, there are always, again, going to be people who are upset about certain mechanics or whatever it is going to be. They're going to cry about it, they're going to shout about it, they're going to ask developers for fixing it, they're going to abandon the game. And even when we're talking about some highly skilled, extremely hardcore games, like, as a matter of fact, again, Elden Ring, let's say, bring it for example, I know a lot of players who left after trying to complete the third boss in this game. It is what it is. They're not able to be patient, or I don't know, they don't have enough skill. They bought the game and they stopped playing it because it's or too much time consuming, they didn't expect that, or whatever is going to be an excuse, I don't know. In every game we can find such situations.
Except, that's not actually the full picture. Plenty of gacha gamers are perfectly willing to accept those design goals in other games. It's not
about the other games. Again, I can bring a lot of examples, even in already existing games where developers are kind of making content easier, they're removing certain mechanics, and people are upset about it. Those who are interested in some competitive aspects of the game, who want to have challenges. They don't like these changes. But again, before we have these changes, we have a group of people who are whining about that this game is too complicated, they are dying a lot, or whatever is going to be the case again. And after that, they're fixing it. And we have another group of people who are unhappy about such changes. It's the reality, and it doesn't really necessarily mean that the problem about the gacha games, it's the problem about the gacha players. No, it's problem about, again, players in general.
As if they're all just unteachable and refuse to take responsibility for their actions in every part of life. But it seems to be near universal when they're playing gacha games. And that is where the real root of the problem lies. Gacha gamers have been taught their actions won't matter, and therefore, gacha gamers have...
I completely disagree with this point. Let's say I wish to bring here the gamers in general. What's the thing here? So we're going to talk specifically about current states of the games. Let's just think for a moment, and it's going to be an important one. Just think a little bit about the games that we had before, 10-15 years ago, and look at the games, no matter which, AAA, whatever games, in different genres. They're becoming less and less competitive. They're becoming easier, they're becoming less thoughtful. You shouldn't spend a lot of time to think about what you're gonna do. Your actions stops to matter that much. They're becoming easier, with certain exceptions, obviously, when we're talking about Souls-like games, but this is, hey, the whole thing about such types of games. They're supposed to be difficult. But vast majority of different games in different genres, they're becoming easier and easier. And it's true. Just think about it. Just compare different games that you were playing before and you're playing right now. And again, we have a lot of different players from different generations. I'm not sure about the young generation right now, what types of games they are interested in, what games they're playing, but I have such a feeling that these games are kinda too easy. Some of gamers, for sure, some of young gamers, they're playing kinda competitive games. But we're talking about, in general, the player base. And I have a feeling that in younger generations, there are more and more people, there are more and more players who are just switching between different projects, and they're not interested to spend a lot of time in the game to understand how it works, how different builds or mechanics are going to work, and so on. They want just to skip it. When we're talking about older generations, let's say old fucks, how some people are calling them, no offense, don't get me wrong, but they're caring more about their lifetime, and they're caring about how much time they're going to spend on different games, and most of the times they're using such games as a fillers of their free time when they're, for example, in a public transport, when they have some break on their job, when they don't know what to do in the evening, for example, spend an hour, half an hour in the game. It's just a filler for them, because they have other goals. They need to work, they need to think about their family, they need to think about their payments, their rental stuff, and so on. They don't care about games. And in the middle we have a certain base of players who are hardcore players, who are enjoying spending hours and hours a day in certain games. But how much people are actually doing it? Are there many of them? I'm not really sure about it. You got the idea what I'm trying to provide to you. The whole thing is the problem not about gacha gamers, but about gamers in general. And those gamers who are whining and crying the most, again, they're going to be the most loud among all the population of players.
Come to expect their actions will not matter. The complaints from beta testers all stem from this root cause. Dodging when it's a bad move led to consequences, but your expectations are that dodging is never the wrong move. Pulling impulsively is always a bad decision, but because the rate of guarantee carries over in MiHoYo games, your expectations are that doing so doesn't usually make a difference. Setting up your own ziplines is a major part of the game, and not setting them up means you'll be walking everywhere, but your expectations are that of already having a plethora of locations to teleport to and of being able to fly around at will. Arknights Endfield...
Again, it's bullshit. I mean, get used to this fucking world and build your ziplines or whatever. Get used to the certain mechanics that this game is going to provide, because this is a unique aspect of this game. It's supposed to work this way.
Dodge button currently means deciding whether or not to dodge matters, but we saw earlier that players do not have any expectation of restraint because the stamina basically never runs out and the dodge lacks commitment. The commitment in the example of Elden Ring means you're punished for acting carelessly, and Elden Ring is known for that. Discipline is expected. Gacha games, on the other hand, are the opposite. They are known for having very few consequences. So when they introduce a consequence to something players aren't used to facing consequences for, it subverts their expectations.
It's a false expression again, so there are different gacha games. Just if you didn't play them, a lot of them, don't provide your, let's say, an expert opinion, because it's going to be false. I'm not saying that you're completely false, but again, there are different players in all games, there are different games, and some of them are kinda highly competitive and they're punishing your wrong or poor decisions during the combats. That's the reality of any games, how it's working. If it's action and if it's require you to think about the way how you're going to perform, if you need to dodge and so on, there are different of them. Some of them are not that strict, some of them are more hardcore and more difficult, and players enjoying it. But again, there is going to be a group of people who are not going to enjoy it, and it is what it is. Just it is what we have.
Of the game. The problem with gacha gamers is not a problem of commitment. The problem is that instead of re-evaluating what their expectations are, they simply ask for the game to better match their expectations by removing those consequences.
With this I agree, and this is a bad and a poor decision of players. If you're not enjoying it, just go away. Don't play this game. If you want to play this game, enjoy what this game is going to provide, especially if it looks kinda unique and special.
In Elden Ring, we saw that restraints on your agency create risk and reward, but when my co-op teammate prevented me from contributing, we saw that zero agency just creates frustration. The problem with the technical test was not the lack of a dodge, the problem was the lack of any agency in reacting to those attacks. Dodging is not the only solution to that lack of agency, but it is a popular one, which is why there were so many calls to implement it. But now with the beta, the problem is that dodging exists in contradiction to the discipline and intent they want to encourage. There are various solutions you could try to make the dodge actually complement the combat system, like basic attacks slowly reducing your stamina and only recharging it once you stop attacking, but that wouldn't solve the issue because dodging would still interrupt your basic attack sequence, so you'd still need to take damage to get SP, so gacha players would still complain. And if dodging didn't reset the sequence, combat would simply be reduced
People are always going to complain.
to a matter of optimizing animation cancels and memorizing optimal rotations, and the game's identity is compromised. The call to remove the dodge is not a call to bring back the guaranteed attack to the technical test, it is a call to change what that agency looks like. It doesn't need to be a reflexive dodge or parry button. Removing the dodge is an immediate way to force the player to reevaluate their expectations from the very start. Because if the controls and inputs do not let you dodge impulsively, then you have to reconsider how you're going to mitigate damage, which forces you to appropriately adjust your expectations of the game. That response video from Billy I mentioned at the start of the video makes a very good point related to this problem of expectations.
在我看来啊，相比于优化闪避的呼声，要求蓝图的声音可能还要更大。这些人可不会在要求蓝图的言论中拿那几个游戏给自己套盾。抄作业比起亲力亲为的闪避，才是最快捷、迅速删除掉一个玩法乐趣的东西吧？那为什么有那么多人对蓝图抄作业有需求？就是因为许多人他就是抱着吃快餐的心态去玩 Gacha 的。
He's absolutely right in saying that blueprints would be an atrocious idea, and if they'd been present in the beta, the Death Knell video would be sunshine and rainbows compared to the Doom posting I'd be doing in that timeline. But what I think his point of view misses is the fact that with Arknights, Hypergriff have been consistently reluctant to add any features that could be considered as the game playing itself or making decisions for you. It has never once had an autoplay button. You have to choose where to deploy your operators and when to activate their skills yourself, and only then do you get to auto-deploy. Likewise, in Endfield, their way of addressing the complaints about the factory was not to add blueprints, but instead to add loads of tutorials and a more intuitive top-down interface. The core design philosophy of do-it-yourself remains just as clear, which is why I don't think pre-made blueprints will be added anytime soon, let alone...
It doesn't make sense to add them. In such type of game, you need to actually think about the way how you're going to manage your factories, your characters, or whatever again is going to be the case. You should think about it on your own. Yeah, for sure, you can look for different guidances, and that's fine, but copy-paste, it's kinda a dog shit
own the
idea.
ability to copy them from other players. But nonetheless, he is right. Those demands for blueprints will grow louder and louder because gacha players only want to eat fast food, the meal without the responsibility of cooking.
I don't think that it might be the case. Let's say it can be. But in this situation, I actually hope that it's not. Let's say it's supposed to be, again, another unique aspect of the game, so people have to get used to it.
And to build on the analogy further, fast food might be convenient and tasty, but if you grow accustomed to it, serious health implications aside, cooking your own food will start to feel like a chore. Hypergriff have said they consider the infrastructure and automation to be the focus of the game, explicitly citing games like Factorio and Dyson Sphere Program as successful examples. But those games have an innate filter in having an upfront cost. Free-to-play gacha games do not have that barrier to entry, and they are surrounded by this bizarre culture of people playing multiple games they may not even like playing, while simultaneously demanding those games make it easier for them to maintain their account. In my years of playing Arknights, I have seen what Hypergriff can cook. They are not afraid to experiment, but it would be delusional to say they have never faltered before. If the game wants gacha players to enjoy the base, they need to change their expectations of the game, and they will not do that unless the game forces them to. If anyone is capable of squaring this circle of sticking to their guns while maintaining mass appeal, it is Hypergriff. But accessibility must not undermine identity.
That's true, I agree with this. So even if the game considered to be as a free-to-play game and accessible for everyone, it shouldn't rely on players who are going to jump in it for a day and then leave this game. Again, we're talking about identity, and here I completely agree that the game should provide its unique perspective and point of view.
Endfield advertises itself as a real-time 3D RPG with strategic elements, and in China as a 3D real-time strategy RPG. Personally, I just think the gameplay should lean more into that. After the technical test, I hoped it would be slow, calculated, and stubborn, but Hypergriff made it fast, impulsive, and forgiving. That doesn't mean I think games with dodging are bad. But I have seen other communities become jaded, only able to sit and watch the obliviating drift of their beloved games towards an audience that has never cared. I have watched longtime fans of Monster Hunter resent the direction of Monster Hunter Wilds, ditching the necessity of positioning, anticipation, and commitment in favor of hitting a piñata that barely fights back, removing so many of those decisions and just going straight to the outcome because gamers don't understand why that decision was there in the first place. I have watched so many Endfield alpha and beta testers openly demonstrate they have precisely zero understanding of why some features and mechanics simply wouldn't work in Endfield, only able to draw upon experiences from some combination of Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves, end of list. Openly stating they have no interest in the Arknights IP whatsoever and just want...
And forget about it. I mean, who gives a shit? The game supposed to again provide unique experience. You need to jump into it and see something new, something different from other games. Again, it shouldn't be the freaking clone of other already existing games. If you're brain dead from Genshin Impact or whatever Wuthering Waves or other games is going to be mentioned here, find something new, try something new. What's the issue? A lot of people are crying about that the games are repetitive, that there is nothing interesting, nothing to do. Just give the freaking company an ability to cook something interesting, decent, and different.
Yet another iteration of the same game while consistently pretending to care about the game's success. You might have heard a quote attributed to one of the lead designers of the Civ series that gamers will optimize the fun out of a game if given the option to, even if it ruins their experience of the game. But no other subculture of video games, not a single one, will not only ask for that option before the game is even out, but openly ask for the literal backbone of the game to be removed just because they don't personally like it. Do you
I don't think so. Again, it's my personal point of view, but there are always going to be players who disagree with certain takes, and they're going to kind of provide different aspects that they don't like about this game, certain mechanics. They're going to be, always. Just again, don't give a shit about
open
it.
Balatro and complain about deck building? Do you open Portal and complain about solving puzzles? If you complain that modern games don't try anything new, then shame them for doing so while
I'm quite sure that there are going to be such players. Not gonna lie.
rewarding the opposite. I hate to break this to you, but you are the problem. And if you start playing Arknights Endfield and you complain about the infrastructure and the factory, the very things that make it Arknights Endfield, that applies to you. Just make everything Genshin Impact! Big game always means better game. I'm not seeing enough movement. Put more shit on the screen. More big numbers, more random colors, more stupid bullshit. What is this depth you speak of? Aura farming's the only gameplay that matters. Just make my waifu look cool when I press E and Q and take my money. Look at how cool the animation is. Time to build pity. Let's go gambling. Please win. No save. Only win. What do you mean building pity isn't a thing? All my friends build pity. Obviously it's a thing, you fucking idiot. What is this factorial?
Oh my god, this is
No
insane.
shit. I don't have that kind of autism. I have the kind with no self-awareness or social skills whatsoever. Wow, chat. Look. Boobs. Absolute cinema. Take all my money. What do you mean they slightly reduced Nicole's boob size? What do you mean I can't see Cantarella's camel toe anymore? This is preposterous. The Chinese Communist Party won't let me masturbate. Video game? What the fuck is one of those? Just make it easier to maintain my account so I can continue to not play the games I've built my entire personality around. Gacha games should do nothing but compete for my attention by replacing every UI element with Subway Surfers and Family Guy funny moments because my childhood cognitive development died the moment my parents decided to raise me with a fucking iPad. Sorry about the attention span, take 3 big booms to make you feel better. Don't even give me a gacha game, just give me a virtual baby playmat instead, where I can hit random objects while shitting my pants and crying about anniversary rewards. Because if I'm totally honest with myself, that's all I really want. Not a handcrafted experience by passionate game designers or a fun challenge to overcome. I just want a distraction. Something to keep me occupied so I don't accidentally start contemplating my meaningless existence on this godforsaken earth. Now just take one moment to seriously ask yourself, who is more deranged here? Me for crashing out in a YouTube video for your entertainment, or you for logging into 50 billion gacha games every fucking day that you don't even like playing, while having the audacity to demand every single one of those games respects your time when you don't even respect your own? I don't want Arknights Endfield to be filled with people who don't even want to play Arknights Endfield!
Holy shit! That was the most valid and accurate crash out on YouTube that I've ever seen. Not gonna lie, oh my god, that was impressive. So here are certain really important points. I'm sorry about it. But yeah, he's kinda saying true that, let's say, there are a lot of players who are playing games just as a fillers. They don't give a shit really about the game or IP or whatsoever. They're just spending time in it. Just to spend time. Nothing else. No real reason. But there are also a lot of players who are enjoying game and who want game to thrive, who want game to progress, provide some unique aspects, something interesting, some cool content. There are a lot of players who want to actually receive something fresh and new, who are not brain dead. Unfortunately, there are a lot of such players in general. I mean, maybe in gacha area it's more that obvious, I guess, than in some other directions and some other fields, but I think there are still a lot of such players all over the place. And again, there are also a lot of players who want to finally get something interesting and enjoy the content that the game is going to provide. And this is important to keep in mind. There are a lot of such players. Just, I don't know what the case, and as a matter of fact, I know a lot of such players. Just they don't speak too much, they don't cry, where it might be kind of an important aspect to actually provide your opinion, even if you're enjoying certain aspects of the game, that a lot of other players are kind of crying about and they don't like it, to actually show that you like it, for devs to see and understand that it's not a real majority of players who don't like certain aspects of the game. They should understand that there are actually more people who are enjoying the things that they are providing. And in my personal opinion, the game should provide again some unique aspects. And if it's supposed to be a strategical one thing, which is going to kinda be rewarding in terms of perfect timings, perfect positioning, using your skills, managing your SP or whatever is going to be, stamina, you understand what I mean. It should be such. If they want to focus more on an action, combats and mechanics, that's fine. But they need to kind of decide what kind of the route they want to follow. If it's completely different from what they have before, well, probably they should reorganize it and provide their unique point of view. It should be the case. Again, even if we're talking about some games with dodging mechanics, I should say that compare it with Souls-like games, it's not a good comparison, because these games, they built around dodging mechanics, they're built around survivability. If this game, the core concept of this game isn't about survivability, it shouldn't be like that punishing as in Souls-like games. If it's supposed to be such, well, again, it's another question. But a lot of different action games, they might be strategical and they might be rewarding, let's say, and they might require you to think about your steps, how you're going to interact inside of your team with different characters of yours, how and when you're going to use your dodges and stuff like that. That's fine to have such type of mechanics, but again, you should focus on what you want to provide at the end. If it's going to be a strategical game, it should be strategical. It shouldn't be some kind of a bullshit that already existing on the market. It should be something different. If you want to focus on action, make it kinda strategical, so people should understand that it requires you to think about your playstyle, how you're going to get through battles and so on. It's simple.
Felt good to get that off my chest. That interview with Hypergriff I cited earlier from G-Cores ends with this paragraph. Innovation is no longer just a creator's aspiration for their own work. It's something the market increasingly demands. Simply improving production standards is no longer enough to satisfy today's players. So whether you want to or not, if you aim to achieve something in the current market, you must create something that is uniquely yours. On paper, this sounds great. In their own words, they want to innovate and create something unique. But we must not judge merely based on words. We should be judging actions, because actions have consequences.
True.
When scores of gacha gamers who don't want good games and just want a babysitter are all now suddenly very excited about Enfield's new direction, I find that to be kind of alarming. So I voiced a dissenting opinion. What better time to voice that criticism than while the game is still in development, when it can still make important changes? All that being said, I have cherished Arknights for this long for good reason. I look forward to finding out what they've been doing since the beta, because if they make the right decisions before release, then on my life I will become the world's #1 hypergrifter. Full turbo glaze, no brakes. I would be delighted to live in that timeline. But until then, I remain patient. When the servers open, I will be there no matter what. Ready to know life Arknights Endfield, ready to experience everything it has to offer. I just hope I will also be ready to cherish it for years to come.
That's true. Great video overall. I agree with a lot of takes that author provided here, and especially with the thing that the game should provide its own unique and specific point of view, mechanics, aspects of the game. They should exist in this game no matter what, no matter what kind of negativity is going to be out there, because it's bullshit when people want just to see the same product that already exists. It's not a valid one feedback. It could be related to certain mechanics if they're not, let's say, polished, if it's intended to be such from the very beginning, but it's not working properly, and it should be fixed, and people can provide, I don't know, certain solutions to how fix it, adjust it, and so on, but it shouldn't change completely the whole concept of, in general, project. And I agree with that. And don't listen to those who are kind of crying about certain stuff. There are always going to be people who are going to cry, and it's not always the best decisions for, in general, outcome of the game. Again, great video. Don't forget to comment, provide your feelings and thoughts about it, hit the like button, subscribe, and see you guys in the next one. Take care.